Hello and welcome to the Chats with Chip podcast. I'm your host, Chip Griffin, and my guest today is Vin D'Eletto. He is the founder of Word Agents. Welcome to the show, Vin.
Thanks, Chip. Glad to be here.
It is great to have you here. And before we jump into the topics at hand, why don't you share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Vin D'Eletto. I'm the owner and operator, founder of WordAgents.com. We're a content creation agency that specializes in SEO optimized articles. So basically, we take your keywords that you want to rank on Google, and we create really good content around them that gives it the best chance possible to rank on Google. And that's what we do. We've got about 200 American writers on staff, and we're growing every day.
Fantastic. And what drew you to this? Why did you decide to start this agency?
Really got into the SEO affiliate world, building content, revenue-generating content websites. And that was back in like 2008, 2009. And to fund the generation of those websites, I was a freelance writer. And I quickly just realized how much demand there was for good content. And it just kind of grew organically from there. I started hiring my buddies, and everybody was helping me out writing. And eventually we just formed Word Agents in 2014, and it really hasn't stopped.
That's great. And writing is one of those things that just about every kind of agency you can think of, whether you're PR, marketing, advertising, digital, everybody needs it these days. And writers are often, good writers at least, are very hard to find. So I'd like to start there. I mean, obviously you started with yourself, but how did you expand that network? How did you recruit people? And how do you make sure that you've got the highest quality writers possible?
Sure. So there's a delineation between types of content. So, old school PR agencies, they know all about branded content. That's not what we do. We specialize in SEO content writing for the internet. So there's a very special way to do that, and we look for very special character traits for those types of writers. Mm-hmm. In the beginning, it was a lot of trial and error, right? I onboarded a bunch of writers that were just not the right fit. But through refinement of our process, we have it down to a science now. And basically what we do is we have all sorts of different outlets where we can obtain freelance writers from, whether they be classified job boards. We have relationships with the universities, and we get honor students from English departments. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we actually just, if I see a good blogger that wrote a great article, I might just email them and ask if they're looking for more work. So it's from a slew of resources that we obtain, I would say, the applications themselves, and then they enter our hiring system where we have several levels of hoops to jump through to see how interested they are in actually working for us. And once they get past through that vetting phase, then they're in a 90-day probation period to show that they can be consistent in providing the quality that we expect. Mm-hmm. So it's really just a giant funnel that we're putting everybody into, and the ones that come out the bottom are the ones that stay on our team for the long term. Mm-hmm.
I'm sure some of the more of the old timers like me who are listening, when they hear something like writing for SEO, they think of the old days where it was content mills churning out low quality rubbish on low traffic sites that were just there purely to feed
Sure.
links to the search engines. So obviously, that is not what SEO writing is today. So, but why don't you explain a little bit more clearly what SEO writing is and the service that you're providing, where that content goes?
Sure, and everything you just explained is exactly what I experienced when I joined the digital marketing world back in 2008. You could really just put up anything, and you could possibly see success and make lots of money.
Right.
But what Word Agents does and what SEO content really is in today's environment. You got to write both for the search engines and for people. So what we say we do is we create human-friendly SEO content. SEO content itself has that bad stigma, and we're trying to get away from that. It's not going to be as in-depth as a branded piece of content where the writer really knows your company, your voice, your style, and is going to write in that vein. What we're doing for SEO content is we're looking at the keyword you want to rank for. And then we're going to learn the intent that the searcher that's using that keyword to find your article has, and then we're going to create the article around that intent. So whether that's the intent being on what stage they are in the sales funnel, or just the intent of their search? Are they just starting to understand this topic, or do they have some knowledge and are looking to further their education on the topic? So these are questions that we ask ourselves when we're preparing to write an article, so we can answer the intent of the reader while also optimizing it so it still ranks well for the target keyword.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And obviously in the old days, when Google relied, more on, keyword density and things like that, that was sort of what gave birth to these content mills. And now, as you've talked about with intent, I think that's sort of the key piece, right? Because the Google algorithm and other search engines now focus on, are you providing the searcher with the information that they were looking for?
Exactly.
So yes, you have to think about keywords, but it's really the quality, right?
Yeah, it's all about relevance. Like if you're not hyper targeting your article and the information within your article, so it's 100% relevant to the keyword itself, then you're doing yourself a disservice, and you're going to spend all this money promoting this article, and you're not really going to get that much traction because you didn't do the work ahead of time to address intent and relevance. And that's Google's whole business model. They need to provide the searcher with the most relevant answer to their question. And as publishers, we need to keep that in mind from step one.
And you mentioned publishing. Is this content that's generally going on the organization's website itself, or is it going on a third-party site? Where is the content that you guys create typically appearing?
Sure. So basically, branded content is anything that would be news related to the business. Anything else that's like static content or content around a keyword is something that an SEO content creator can do for you. Typically, this is your blog. It's your knowledge base on your website. If you're an e-commerce company, it'll be your product descriptions and category descriptions. And if you're an SEO affiliate or you use affiliate marketing as an income stream, it'll be those affiliate articles meant to drive revenue through affiliate marketing as well.
Now, how do you maintain quality, right? I've managed teams of writers before, and it is challenging because everybody kind of has their strengths and weaknesses, and every writer has their idiosyncrasies. How do you make sure that you are maintaining the content? What kind of editing do you have? And what kind of feedback are you giving your writers? Because this is a very complicated process in most cases.
Yeah, you're spot on there. So we have a really kind of it's pretty tedious quality assurance process. Our actual production team, there's 3 sets of management eyes on every article after the writer turns in their first draft. And their direct may return it to them for an initial revision before we deliver it to the client, just in case if their direct caught something that was incorrect. After that, it goes through a proofreading phase where we use Grammarly.com to kind of create a baseline for spelling and grammar, because Grammarly.com is the leading tool set for grammar optimization and proofreading on the market right now. So we always guarantee that we'll score at least 90% or better on Grammarly. We also use a plagiarism tool called Copyscape to ensure that our writing is 100% unique. We will never plagiarize anything or copy paste anything that's already on the internet. And then after that, we just have standard review periods for our writers, where we're constantly reorganizing our ratings of writers. And every time we go through a new hiring session, we typically fire the bottom 10% of our team. And that way, we're always kind of getting rid of the guys that are no longer up to our expectations. So our team is like this amoeba that's always moving and living and changing all the time. And it really requires like 24/7 maintenance.
Now, you've mentioned a couple of different tools that you use there, but as far as managing the workflow, have you found off-the-shelf tools that help you manage that workflow, or have you had to create your own? Or
yeah, we use a really slick tool for service providers. It's called Service Provider Pro. It's just a project management / help desk / CRM platform that's built for productized services like word agents. So there's a customizable project management flow that we create all the stages in our pipeline, and it's pretty much custom to us. So we have that down to a science right now, and we launched on that in April, and it's been very valuable to us, and quality has shot up as a result as well.
Oh, that's great. I'm sure that other folks will want to check that out as well, because that is sort of the challenge for many agencies is managing these workflows and,
Yeah,
and making sure that things don't fall through the cracks.
It took me 5 years to find them and really get it. I went through so many iterations of building my own and using other off-the-shelf options. This was the closest to my needs. Not perfect, but it really propelled us forward once it was implemented.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned also the writers and the quality checks and all that. Do you typically have the same writers serve the same client over and over again, or is it just who's available at the moment, or are there industry specialties? How do you manage that piece of the process?
For our use case, it's just the next available writer.
Okay.
We spent a whole year testing out teams of subject matter experts in different verticals, and what we found is, somebody that has a great deal of knowledge on a topic may not be the best writer as well. So, we beat our head against the wall trying to build these teams, and we figured that, generalist writers that are really good at writing for the internet and no SEO optimization are just as effective as expert level writers.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of pricing model do you use? Is it per piece? Is it deadline driven? How long you have? I mean, talk about your models that you use.
It's actually credit based now. Okay. We used to be project based, where we would quote by the project, and I just couldn't scale that way. So now we just have 4 defined packages at 4 defined price points. The bigger the package, the bigger the volume discount you get. But you're just purchasing credits, and then you use those credits to order articles.
Gotcha. And so are the credits, are they word-based, I assume?
Word-based, yeah. So basically, our smallest package is for 1,000 words, and our largest package is for 20,000 words.
Gotcha. Okay. And now one of the things I do know is that you work with agencies, and obviously a lot of the listeners, most of the listeners of this show are agency owners or executives. And so, how do you work with agencies? What kind of model do you have? Do they come to you and say, hey, we've got a bunch of clients? Is it more on a per project basis? How do you typically work with other agencies?
Most agencies just load up on credits in our system. We don't provide bylines for writers or anything like that. Everything we do is ghostwriting. So we don't really need to launch a white label service because it's going to be the same for everybody. But yeah, we have, I think, over 20 agencies that are recurring at this point. And all they do is they just buy credits and they place their orders for their clients. And they have all their content fulfillment done for each month, every month.
Mm-hmm. And how do you find agencies to work with? Obviously, you're an agency yourself, but typically there's a difference in working with agencies versus companies directly. What have you experienced there, if any differences?
Yeah, we have a few different marketing vehicles. I came up in the SEO world, in the online forums and the Facebook groups, so I have a little bit of a following in that world. So a lot of the SEO agencies just know about us already, and they just come to us as a referral. But for agencies outside of the SEO world, we're doing a lot of LinkedIn prospecting. We're doing Facebook advertising. And we've got a nice email marketing funnel set up targeting agencies directly. Mm-hmm. And that's been successful so far.
Mm-hmm. Now, how has your business evolved over the years that you've been in business? Obviously, Google is constantly changing its algorithm. I assume you have to be responsive to some degree to that, at least. But what other shifts have you seen in the business over the last few years, other than, of course, what's going on right now around us, which is
the giant
which is its own special animal? Yes.
So I also own another company. It's a publishing company where I maintain a bunch of these revenue-generating websites. So I walk the talk. I don't just sell you this stuff. I actually do this stuff as well. So I'm always personally updating our internal best practices for SEO optimization, just because I know what works right now. But other than that, it's really just been my growth individually, understanding the business world and really how to operate an agency. Right. I started as a sole prop, and then I had some buddies helping me out. Then we were, a bespoke boutique agency offering project-based, and now we've kind of reached the next level where we're a productized service that's very streamlined, and we really know where we exist in the ecosystem, and we really target everybody, within our environment.
Mm-hmm. And I jokingly referred to our current environment because if you don't laugh, you cry. But
Exactly.
I mean, how has that impacted the space that you're in? I mean, have you seen an increasing demand for content? Has it, have the kinds of clients that have been coming to you shifted? What kind of insights can you offer there?
Our larger agencies and mid-market and enterprise clients, it got a little scary just because they didn't know how to adjust their budget with the pandemic. But as things kind of got less scary, they opened up again. So we didn't take too much of a hit, but we definitely saw an increase in like service phone calls and shifts in budgets and plans for 2020. But it kind of seems like everything is starting to normalize again.
Mm-hmm. And as we looked in the rearview mirror, but now let's look ahead. What do you see on the horizon? How do you see your business evolving or the overall SEO content industry evolving?
Well, fortunately for us, I think a lot of businesses realized that they were deficient in digital marketing. So now, as a result of the pandemic, all these bigger agencies that weren't doing a whole lot of SEO or content marketing, they're implementing that because they don't know how long this pandemic is going on, and some of their real world marketing vehicles may not be as effective, where digital marketing is going to be effective during a pandemic like this. So that's the biggest change that I saw. As far as the SEO landscape, it's Google is just being Google. I don't think there's any effects to SEO as a result of the pandemic. It's just, we're always fighting with Google, and that's just something we do every day anyway. So it's no change there.
Right. Now, you've mentioned that you started out as a freelancer, and it sort of has mushroomed from there. I think that's an experience that a lot of agency owners have. Most agency owners didn't come into it saying, "Hey, I'm going to build this great, big enterprise with, 200 team members and all that kind of stuff." What do you wish you had known when you got started that you know today? I mean, what would you go back and tell yourself at the beginning?
I mean, I had a pretty wild youth growing up, and I didn't have the best education, so I certainly would have enjoyed a nice MBA in my pocket before I started any business. But I think a lot of people would wish the same thing. I think the biggest thing is that I learned is that a single deal, whether it's a success or failure, is not the biggest thing in the world. You're going to have lots of deals on your plate, and whether one went great, you shouldn't let that grow your head too much. And if one was a big failure, you shouldn't let that discourage you too much. Just keep chipping away, and the more you chip away, the bigger your book of business will grow, and then you can rely less on single deals at that point.
Mm-hmm. Now, I like that you had mentioned that you have some publishing site or some content sites as well as your agency, because one of the things that I'm a big advocate of as someone who has started many companies myself is having places where you can experiment with some of your core services and really, as you say, walk the walk. So, what advice would you have for folks who are thinking about, starting an additional business alongside their agency, or, experimenting with some of their services in a different place?
Sure. I would say first and foremost, in today's Google and the SEO world, starting something from scratch and bootstrapping it is not as easy as it was in 2010. Mm-hmm. So what I would suggest is, if you're going to start a side business to kind of test things or just apply your business model to make sure that you're walking the talk, is try to buy an existing business and let them kind of deal with all the headaches of bootstrapping from scratch. Even if it's just a small business, you don't got to spend 6 figures on it. Maybe if you spend 30 to 50 grand, just so you got over that initial hump, because it really takes a long time to get over those initial stages. And if you want to just use this as a side business to kind of test out your theories and your services, you're going to do yourself a service by kind of just spending a little bit of money to get a semi-established business, so you can really just get down to business right away.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that makes a lot of sense. Well, Vin, this has been really helpful. You've offered a lot of practical suggestions for folks. If they want to learn more about you or Word Agents, where can they go online?
Sure. You can always reach me at vincent@wordagents.com by email. You can visit our website, wordagents.com. And I'm also on Twitter at wordagents.
Fantastic. And we'll include links to all of those in the show notes that go along with this episode. I really appreciate your time here with us, Vin. Again, my guest today has been Vin D'Eletto, the founder of Word Agents.